Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon, listeners. I'm Emma Bolsner, and here are your 3:30 news and sports headlines. Starting off in local news, 2 Vancouver residents are currently in court today after being found guilty of drug trafficking charges. Jeremy Calicum and Eris Nix sold safety-tested heroin and cocaine through a compassion club between August 2022 and October 2023. This is the first hearing. And the BC government has announced proposing changes to the Mental Health Act aimed at protecting frontline healthcare workers. The proposal would update a 40-year-old section of the Act to protect workers treating patients in involuntary care. And BC is continuing to face challenges with nurse retention levels. Reporter Quinlan Curry has more.
BC still has more than 5,000 nursing vacancies, and new data show safety concerns remain high across healthcare. For young nurses, those pressures show up early. Nathan O., a BC nursing student working in a Lower Mainland healthcare facility, says recent incidents on shift have given him a clearer sense of the job he's entering.
New nurses are definitely walking into a place with lots of opportunities, but that also means that a lot of times nursing is short-staffed, and that is a reality that we do have to face.
Advocates say improving staffing levels and supporting new nurses will be key to keeping them in the profession as demand continues to rise. Quinlan Curry, BCIT News.
And a woman has been taken to hospital after police responded to shots fired at a Surrey home. The incident happened outside the home around 9 p.m. last night. The woman has non-life-threatening injuries, and the investigation is still ongoing. And the Better Business Bureau is warning BC residents to be aware of scams as donation season approaches. The group is asking people to avoid donating on the spot and instead donate directly to charities. And November is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Reporter Aidan Singh has more on the cancer that 1 in 8 Canadian men suffer from.
Austin Zimmer is a support manager with the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Canada, and he's heard all the jokes imaginable. But as research shows that an average of 14 men succumb to the disease every day, Zimmer feels that changing the dialogue around the illness is critical.
And that's part of where we're breaking that stigma. Because a lot of times men are pretty adverse to doing that because they don't want to, right? It's the biggest joke ever about the finger in the bum, about realizing that there's a blood test, and now there's another blood test, and pretty soon they're going to be able to have an ultrasound test. Things are moving in a direction where it's no longer that inconvenient.
Zimmer says any person over the age of 50 should get tested, as early detection leads to a near 100% survival rate. Aidan Singh, BCIT News.
Now moving to Alberta, Calgary's airport resumes operations after a snowstorm hit early this morning, but delays are still impacting travelers throughout the day. Up to 15 centimeters of snow is expected, with a snowfall warning still in effect. And staying in Alberta, 6 more members of Premier Danielle Smith's caucus are facing recall petitions. This includes Cabinet Ministers Rajan Shani, Miles McDougall, Dale Nally, and R.J. Sigurdsson. There are now a total of 9 members facing recall. If all MLAs are defeated, United Conservatives would lose their majority status. And in Ontario, Premier Doug Ford's government is set to propose a new legislation requiring people accused of a crime and granted bail to provide a cash deposit up front. Currently, those in custody are required to pay later if they break their bail conditions. Attorney General Doug Downey says this measure could improve bail compliance.
I've heard directly from victims of crime, families, police officers, and community leaders who are calling for a bail system that is real, consequential, and protects the public.
The payment would be returned after the conclusion of the case. And Yop yogurt has been recalled off of Canada's shelves after pieces of plastic were found in some products. The recall includes all flavors with best before dates from October 21st, 2025 to January 12th, 2026. The company says it will continue working with Canada's Food Agency and its retail partners to ensure no one consumes the recalled items. And in Ottawa, the federal government announced $35 million over 3 years for the creation of dental training programs across Canada. The funding will go towards 30 health programs and fill gaps to ensure all Canadians have access to dental care. Minister of Health Marjorie Michelle has more.
These projects will improve training for dental students and strengthen efforts to improve access to care.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney may head to Washington next week to meet with President Donald Trump, but the meeting will not be about tariffs. Instead, the Prime Minister and President will discuss the FIFA World Cup taking place in 2026. And the names of the two brothers struck and killed by a train near Montreal over the weekend have now been released. Simon and Samuel Bruch were tragically struck by an automated train early Saturday morning near Brossard, Quebec. Police say 3 young men attempted to use the tracks to cross over to Highway 10. The third victim survived the collision. The investigation is still ongoing. Simon and Samuel were 19 and 22 years old. And Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen spoke at Parliament Hill today about his upcoming trip to the moon and what it means for Canada.
From my perspective, what I'm excited about is how this represents Canada. It has very little to do with me. But the fact that Canada will be the second country in the world to send a human into deep space says a lot about our industry, our academia, our can-do attitude, and our innovation that's very much welcomed on the world stage. I think it's a great reminder for Canadians that sometimes we keep ourselves a little small and we can do some extraordinary things.
The Artemis 2 mission will launch into space in early 2026. And south of the border, American airports are expecting their busiest Thanksgiving with over 360,000 flights scheduled after the government shutdown. Travelers are encouraged to arrive early and prepare for weather delays. Americans will be buying turkeys, up 40% for Thanksgiving dinner this year. The turkey population is at a 40-year low due to bird flu. Canned cranberry sauce had the biggest price increase as well after drought and new tariffs on steel impacted production. And the Pentagon says it is investigating Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona after potential breaches of military law. The Pentagon statement said it is federal law that retired service members are recalled to active duty. Kelly served in the U.S. Navy as a fighter pilot before becoming an astronaut. He joined other lawmakers calling for U.S. troops to refuse unlawful orders. And President Donald Trump will be visiting China in April 2026 for a state visit. According to the White House, a phone call discussion occurred today between Trump and China's President Xi Jinping. Officials say there has been progress with the U.S.'s peace plan proposal for Ukraine. Specific details have not been provided. Last week, critics of the plan were concerned the U.S. would back with Russia, but the proposed plan is said to have been updated. And there is outrage in Australia's parliament today after far-right Senator Pauline Hanson wore a burqa. Hanson has been vocal around banning residents from wearing burqas and other face coverings in public in Queensland. Green Senator Larissa Waters spoke out in Parliament about the incident.
That it is not appropriate in this Senate to draw attention to a religion that this person does not even subscribe to. It is an insult.
Senate proceedings were suspended after Hanson refused to remove the burqa. In Nigeria, 50 of the over 300 school children abducted from a Catholic school have escaped and now been reunited with their families. A total of 235 children and 12 teachers are still missing after gunmen attacked the St. Mary's School in Papri on Friday. The Pope has called for an immediate release of those still held. And in Ethiopia, a volcano erupted for the first time in almost 12,000 years. Smoke from the volcano is moving towards China. As of now, no lives have been lost. And now moving on to sports. After the Canucks' loss against the Calgary Flames 5-2 last night, the Canucks are determined to bounce back. On Wednesday, they play against the Anaheim Ducks. Currently, the Canucks have the third worst record in the NHL this season. Continuing in hockey, the Ottawa Senators head to LA to face off the Kings tonight. The Senators are third in the Atlantic Division and are the only Canadian team currently in a playoff position. And the Calgary Flames defenseman Rasmus Andersson has been named the NHL's first star of the week. Andersson had a league-leading 9 points in 4 games last week as the Flames achieved their first 3-game winning streak of the season. And the BC Lions will face the Edmonton Elks and Calgary Stampeders in Kelowna, BC next season, while their home stadium of BC Place hosts the FIFA World Cup. The Lions will battle the Stampeders at the Apple Bowl on June 27, 2026, then take on the Elks at the same venue on July 4th. BC Place and Toronto's BMO Field will combine to host 13 World Cup matches when soccer's Men's World Championship comes to Canada, the United States, and Mexico between June 11th and July 19th. In soccer, San Diego and Minnesota United compete tonight, hoping to gain a conference final spot against the Vancouver Whitecaps. The winner tonight will face off the Whitecaps on Saturday, November 29th in the Western Conference Final. New York City celebrates Gotham FC's second National Women's Soccer League championship in 3 years. The celebration today included a procession in Manhattan and the presentation of the keys to the city. Players traveled to City Hall on top of double-decker buses along Broadway. And Whistler ski cross racer Marielle Thompson hopes to compete in February's Olympic Games in Milan. Thompson suffered a knee injury and required surgery.
This knee injury has been very different than my past injuries, a lot more complex. Nothing's felt as easy, not that any knee recovery is easy, but it's definitely been more difficult.
The first World Cup ski cross races of the season begin next month in France. And in Greece, a lighting of the Olympic flame took place for the 2026 Milan Winter Games. The ignition of the torch is a 2,800-year-old ritual. Weather teams closely monitored conditions to secure a brief window of sunshine. The flame will begin a 63-day relay across Italy before the February 2026 Games. And in basketball, Caitlin Clark will make her USA Basketball National Team camp debut when the Americans get together at Duke next month. The Indiana Fever All-Star will be there alongside other first-timers. And now on to weather. Mostly cloudy conditions today. Periods of showers will begin this evening and end around midnight. Today's high will be 6 degrees. Tomorrow, expect rain in the afternoon. Wednesday will be cloudy, and the rest of the week similar, with lots of cloud and rain. And those are your 3:30 news and sports headlines. Thanks so much for tuning in and staying informed. I'm Emma Bolsner, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
I would recommend this program for anyone that isn't sure what kind of job they want in media, because you learn everything from like public relations to communications to video editing, like radio, TV. So you do get a lot of experience in all the different fields in media.